What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today, I want to go ahead and break down my analysis on a position that I took today with some December call options. I'm obviously looking for upside on this position over the next few months, and I want to share with you the analysis that I did to make this decision. Please understand that I am just sharing my analysis with you guys. This is not financial advice, nor should you follow what I do here. I'm here to share, educate, and I want to go ahead and break down this trade that I took today and share with you why I made this decision. If you enjoy it after watching, press that like button, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to drop in the comments down below what you think about this position. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So guys, the stock that we're looking at today and the stock that I went ahead and took a position on is Nvidia. Now, we all know Nvidia has been under some pressure in the short term. We've seen those US restrictions on their exports to China, and this has definitely affected the entire semiconductor space as a whole. I'm looking at this drop that we've seen recently as a little bit of a short-term opportunity with some December call options. I like the technical setup that I'm seeing, and I think this is a pretty good risk to reward for my money, for my risk, for the potential upside that I could possibly see. This is why I went ahead and took it, and I'm going to share with you guys the technicals that I'm seeing. So on your screen, you were looking at the daily chart on Nvidia, and we can see about the last 2 years of price action. Back here was back in March of 2020 when we had the virus come in. That was our drop. We traded down to around $50 per share. After that, we have ran up to about $346 per share. Since that high on Nvidia, we have dropped about 60%. So we're about 60% down from the highs on Nvidia. Just in the last few weeks, we have dropped 30% on Nvidia due to some of these concerns about the exports to China. I'm looking at a 30% drop over the last 3 weeks as an opportunity, roughly about 10% per week to the downside on Nvidia. I think this could be an opportunity, especially when we look back and see where Nvidia is now trading. If we look back at Nvidia, we can see we are now trading in the channel that Nvidia created back in 2020 and 2021. You guys can see we traded in August of 2020 to around May of 2021. We traded in this channel for about a year of time. So we've been back in this channel for about a year of time, back between August and May of 2020 to 2021, and we can see we are now back at those levels, especially coming into it very sharply due to some of the concerns about the exports to China, about 30% to the downside into this channel. If I pull up the volume profile over the last few years, you can see that we are now trading at the point of control for Nvidia over the last few years. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the Nvidia volume profile. Right here, you can see that the most amount of transactions, which is considered the point of control, is this red area on your screen. Nvidia has traded down into the point of control over the last 2 to 3 years, and we are now trading at where there has been the most transactions in the time frame that I have. The time frame that we're looking at is the last 3 years and the daily chart. So over the last 3 years, the most amount of transactions that have occurred on this stock have happened at this 133 to 135 level on Nvidia. That is the point of control, and that is where we traded today and over the last few weeks. That is where we traded down to after seeing this downside due to Nvidia or due to the export restrictions that the US has imposed. So we are trading back, in my opinion, at a level that I would be willing to continue to buy shares, which I have been, continue to look for risk to reward to the upside. I could be wrong here, but I like this level as a potential demand. When I look at the longer term analysis on the daily chart here on Nvidia, I think this could be an opportunity, especially with the 30% drop over the last 3 weeks. If we move down into this level slowly and we didn't go very aggressively into this level, I wouldn't think about it as much as an opportunity. But dropping 30% in 3 weeks into this level, I think there could be some opportunity for a short-term bounce off this very important level on Nvidia. The highest transactions that have been made in the last 3 years, the point of control, is right here at this 135 level. I'm going to go ahead and take this volume profile off, and I'm going to go ahead and break down now the shorter term analysis for this particular trade, share with you the trade that I did open, and go ahead and break down why I did take it today and some of the levels that I'm watching in the short term. So we are now on the 30-day 1-hour screen on Nvidia, and you can see since the high back here, this is August 4th. This is about a month ago. You guys can see we have dropped just about 30% since about August 4th, which was roughly a month ago. So in 30 days, we've dropped 30% averaging about 10% to the downside per week. We can see that over the last few days, over the last week of price action, we have started to sort of consolidate here on Nvidia. When I start to see this consolidation, I believe it starts to create somewhat of an opportunity when it comes to risk to reward. The stop loss that I have to take here for this position has started to show itself to me. I know that if I'm in an upside position on Nvidia at this point, I know that I have to exit it under around this 133.50 level. If Nvidia drops back below 133.50, then my analysis, my thesis for this trade is no longer valid. And I know that if we have bottomed here once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and found support off of it, I know that Nvidia is respecting this level, and I can use it as my stop loss for a high risk to reward setup. I got in today when the stock was trading at about $139 per share. So if we look at my risk to reward, my risk is starting at around $139, which is right in this general area. $139, that is my risk on this play. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so we can see this a little bit better. My risk on this play is if Nvidia drops back down under 133.50, it's about $5 of risk. From 139 to around 133, that is around $5 to $6 per risk on my position. I'm going to go ahead and put this as a transparent box so we can signify the risk that I have on this position, which is if Nvidia comes back down to 133.50 and breaks that level, I stop out of my play, I take my loss, and I move on. If I look at the potential upside here, I can see that over the last few weeks, we have dropped very significantly to the downside with lower than expected volume. So if I go ahead and pull up the volume profile here, guys, on Nvidia, we can see that if we break to the upside, the volume that is holding Nvidia back on the upside is relatively low. So we can see volume profile here has really started to accumulate down in this 133 to 135 level. You can see this big peak in volume showing that there is an accumulation of volume, accumulation of transactions down here in this area. Now, if we look north of this level, we can see this very large valley of price, a very large valley in the volume profile. This would signify that if Nvidia can find some strength off this level, it should move through this valley relatively quickly. The next area we have to be in focus on is around this 150 level. And after that, we get pretty light once again until around this 160 level. You guys can see we get a little bit heavier here. It gets light again above 160, and then it gets really heavy once again around this 170. I'm looking for a move to 150. That's about all that I'm looking for on this position in the short term. I would love to see Nvidia move through this valley of price action into this 150 level, and I would be able to make a very nice return with the contract that I did get, which was a December 16th 160 call. I'm going to go ahead and pull up that on the screen. I'll go ahead and take a screenshot and put it on the screen for you guys to see. You will see that I took some December 16th 160 calls. I got in them today towards end of day today. I am looking for that move in this valley of price action towards that 150. And if it continues, if it still looks strong, I'll look to play it into the 160, the 170, and see how long this momentum can hold if this level stays in, right? So if my risk stays in, if I do not get stopped out of this position, we can go ahead and signify my reward here. Up to 150 would be the first target. If we continue, we could see maybe a move up to that 160. And you can see the risk to reward here just gets better and better. So if I zoom in here, we can see that alone just to 150, we're looking at about a 2-to-1 risk to reward. If we get up towards that 160, this is getting closer to somewhat of a 4-to-1 risk to reward. I personally like this setup. I personally like the risk to reward that I am putting on my portfolio here. Volume profile shows me that above the level that we're currently looking at, it gets pretty light, meaning that we could see some upside if this point of control holds on around this 133 to 135 level. Easy stop loss, right? Structured trade. If I'm wrong here, I move on, I take my loss. I like my analysis. I'm looking at this. It makes sense to me. That's something that's very crucial for you guys out there. If you're a trader and you're doing analysis and you like the setup that you're looking at, put some risk on the table. Not something that's not going to make you broke, nothing that's going to blow up your account. Trust your analysis. That's very big in trading, to trust yourself, to have confidence in what you're looking at. I like this personally. I'm here sharing with you. You may not like it yourself, and I would love to hear your opinions down in the comments below. But I like the risk to reward that I have here on Nvidia. The last thing that I want to go ahead and show you guys is the gap on the daily chart, which is another thing that I am targeting. It's not something that I am solely playing this play for, but I will share with you that gap here on the daily chart as well. So if we look at the daily chart on Nvidia, we can see that there is a gap in price action. This is due to the drop that we had once that news came out about the US sort of putting those restrictions on Nvidia with their exports. The low of this candle is around 149.60, which is right around that 150 target that I have. So if I can even get the gap fill, if I can get us through that low volume profile, I would love to take profits here starting around that 150 and see if there is any more upside for this play. I purchased these call options today. We'll see what happens. I like the analysis. I like the risk to reward. I wanted to go ahead and share it with you guys today. I am also adding a lot of shares in my long-term, in my SEP IRA. This is something that I have to do almost. Instead of giving it to the IRS, I have to contribute to an IRA. So I'm going ahead and contributing to my IRA with some Nvidia shares here at this 133, 135 level. So that's Nvidia. That's my analysis. We can break this down once again. If we zoom out, you guys can see that we are at a very crucial level on Nvidia. We are trading back in 2020 levels. We are at the point of control on the volume profile. If we go ahead and put a line across where we're trading today, you can see that we are all within the channel that was created back about 2 years ago, all in this general area. So we got that sort of hold in that general area, and we've seen in the short term, if we go back to the 30-minute chart, we see in the short term that we are maintaining a low here over the last week. We've started to build a low here on Nvidia. So right here, you can see over the last week, we have started to build a base. This base creates good risk to reward. I know that if we drop below this level, I get stopped out of my play, and that is all done. I take my loss, I move on. But I know that there is a level now that I could play off of. So we have the 133 level, 133, that I want to go ahead and look at as a potential stop loss, putting my stop below that level, looking for that upside potentially to the gap fill, as well through that low volume profile, looking for that acceleration off this potential demand. Some of the things that could go wrong with this play, guys, I want to go ahead and point those out. We have CPI next week. If the NASDAQ continues to the downside, if we continue to see the market drop, Nvidia will obviously stop me out here. It's not going to hold up in an environment where the overall market is moving to the downside. So that is definitely a risk that I take here, taking this position. On top of that, we have the continued pressures that we could see due to the restrictions that the US has based on semiconductor stocks, especially on Nvidia. So that could be another sort of problem that I could encounter during this trade. Overall, I like the analysis. I like the risk to reward. I am just here to share it with you today. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, press that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.